Sue Hill joins us now. Very good morning to you. Is this something that you saw at in your time as Chief Superintendent over at the Metropolitan Police?
Well, I'm glad to say it happened on a couple of occasions, but on both occasions when it came to light that a police officer has taken advantage of a victim, both those cases that I dealt with, I was on a misconduct hearing and they were sacked, dismissed out of the police force. And on both occasions, another police officer raised the alarm and, you know, did the whistle blowing. But I just think we need to remember that most cops out there, 99.9%, do a really good job. This is a very, very small minority.
Although they're reporting hundreds of cases. One of the cases that you dealt with was somebody who took advantage of a domestic abuse
That's right.
victim.
They formed a relationship post the incident, met in a pub, and the worst thing that happened, took this victim back to a police building, but a member of the public and a police officer you know, mentioned it to a senior officer, and immediately that officer was suspended, dealt with. I was on the misconduct hearing and dismissed. So, you know, I want to reassure the public, in every walk of life, you're going to get a bad apple. You'll have people here that might abuse their position, their authority, but when it's a police officer, someone who you entrust to look after you, to be the guardian, then it is abhorrent. But I could reassure you that if any officer comes across this and knows a peer group, a member of their peer group is doing this, they will report it. And obviously, there are individuals out there who've got away with this. Now, the HMIC have done this investigation, and there's over 400 allegations in a 2-year period. But what we need is those victims who have mentioned this and made the allegation, they have to continue to support the allegation.
Because often they don't want to, or often they're too scared to?
On the 2 cases I've just described when I was on a misconduct hearing, the victim never came forward, didn't want to give evidence, because it's really quite intimidating.
So you've put it into perspective in numbers terms, but still for us, as we're sitting here, you talked about the police, they're there to protect us, to look after us, to make sure we're safe. That abuse of power is what is so scary. And you're not surprised by these figures, which I think is equally scary. Is that because there was a culture, or there is a culture within the police force that allows some of this to go ahead without colleagues feeling like they can blow the whistle, they can dob their mates in?
But I think we even, you know...
Is that the case?
Well, I'm saying now, I think we're in a better position now, and there is much more protection for victims than there ever was. And there's been a huge cultural change. Many, many years ago, this kind of thing went unreported, there weren't whistleblowers, it was a culture that would have happened, whether it be dentists, doctors, football managers. We're in a different place than we were.
With respect, if you are... I mean, obviously, we have heard the most abhorrent cases. I mean, this morning, those police officers responsible for actual crimes...
and they've gone to prison.
And sexual assault, going to prison. But if you are involved in a relationship where a police officer has actually abused his position, you're not sure if you're a victim of a crime or not, but you are having to go to a police force to report a police officer, that must be one of the worst situations to be in, and to put the onus on the victim to say it's up to you to stand up for yourself in the face of this potential crime by a police officer by talking to potentially his or her colleagues. What a terrifying situation.
But there are other agencies, Suzanne, that you can go to, whether it be Citizen Advice Bureau, go and talk to somebody else. But you will, if you want to report something, something like this has happened to you, my advice would be go and see somebody, a third party, you know, whether it be Women Against Rape, Rape Crisis. If there is, you know, a serious sexual assault, there are agencies out there that can speak on your behalf. But none of us, no police officer, I'm now retired, but I am horrified to think there are officers out there taking advantage. But can I just leave you with, reassure you that 99.9% of cops, which is true because this is a very low
are not going to be doing this. OK,
yeah.
Can I just ask one thing? Is there a total ban on police officers having a relationship of any sort with the either victims of crime or suspects of crime who may then be exonerated, for instance? Is there a ban on those relationships, or is it always a matter of misconduct? And does that line need to be made clearer? No,
there isn't always, because I'm actually aware of somebody many years ago who subsequently got married, been married 20 years. You know, every case, men and women, and generally these cases are against men. You know, you go up on New Year's Eve and you watch young women pouring themselves over some police officers. It's quite frightening. So it does happen. It's human nature. You know, in any organisation, when you've got men and women who meet and have an interaction, it's like doctors. meet patients? Of course they do.
Well, and that leads to problems as well, and there are clear rules
But
on
there
that.
are
But
many...
maybe the rules should be clearer for police officers.
Well, I think
so
the rules
doesn't...
are very clear that when it's about abusing a victim, I think the rules are very clear. You do not set up a relationship and abuse your authority with a victim.
So when it is a victim of crime, it is a total ban.
No, it's not a total ban.
So how
what
can
if
you...
someone has their car stolen?
No, but sorry, you just said the rules are very clear, but I'm not understanding where the clarity
Well, I think
is.
they're clear when you're abusing your authority to sexually abuse. That's what we're talking about in this report, Suzanne. We're not talking about a police officer that deals with a member of the public and subsequently goes on a date. And then that's a different situation. What we're talking about, this is very clear. This is about
and
police
the police
officers abuse their authority.
will understand that they're doing that as well.
Absolutely. Come on, this is very clear. You take advantage of someone who's vulnerable and is a victim.
Yeah.
That's a
Although
different
perhaps
issue.
anybody who's a victim of any crime might be, could be argued that they are vulnerable when they're with somebody who's in a police role.
I'm going to disagree with you because over the years I've seen many police officers meet lovely people who've ended up watching this programme now happily ever after. So we know very clearly those that abuse people who are in a vulnerable condition.
Okay.